M. Night Shyamalan's latest movie, Split, is hitting theaters now, and here's a twist, it's not terrible. Check out our review right now on ScreenJunkies News.
Someone's coming for you.
Hi, I'm Dan Merle.
And I'm Roth Cordet.
And we are reviewing Split, the latest film from M. Night Shyamalan. Roth, this is a movie that's been getting some buzz for a few months now, kind of hailed as maybe not a return to Sixth Sense form, but a return to some kind of form for M. Night Shyamalan. And I have to agree, definitely better than some of his latest efforts.
Yeah, he's actually kind of, I feel like, been on an upward swing since The Visit, right? The Visit came out and it was fairly well received, especially among horror fans, surprisingly well received, in fact. And this one's another one that I think came out and we went, all right, but are you going to do it again, or are we about to return to The Happening?
Yeah.
And actually, this is, first and foremost, it is a vehicle for James McAvoy.
James McAvoy, yes.
Right?
100%.
You look at this and you go, oh, on paper, why was James McAvoy doing the movie? And then you see it and you go, oh, that's why. Because he said, I am going to show you acting in a movie. This movie's just under 2 hours, right? Doesn't even feel like it. It moves really quick. Felt like about 90 minutes to me, which is my favorite runtime for a movie. And the entire time, it's as if James McAvoy said, I am just going to tear through this film and act my way out of every single moment. It's incredible.
James McAvoy is great in this movie. It is a really, really strong performance. He plays a guy who has several different personalities. We see some of them, we don't see some of them. Some of them are used as plot points. I think that, yeah, this could have gone horribly wrong. This could have gone horribly, horribly wrong. I gotta give James McAvoy credit for doing this movie with M. Night Shyamalan, given his recent track record and the fact that if you don't walk a tightrope on these performances, you're going into full camp territory. But let's talk about the movie as a whole. And I think that, you know, the one thing that Shyamalan's been able to do, and the one thing that he did, I think, in the first 2/3 of The Visit really well, was tension. Signs had so much amazing tension, and Sixth Sense. His best movies have been able to create a sense of tension. And this is a really tension-filled movie. It kind of mounts. I feel like the first 45 minutes or so were a little slow, but the back half of this movie, once things really get cooking, that's what kind of had me on the edge of my seat, really invested in these characters.
And I'm interested to see how horror fans respond to this, because this really is a psychological thriller, right? Literally speaking, that's what it is. It's about this brain and how it's functioning. Two things about that. One, I think you have to divorce yourself from any sort of reality around mental illness. This is a very heightened world that we're living in,
yes,
you know?
Is.
And how his disease manifests is probably not is unlike anything that you would see in our world.
He's not going for stark realism in this movie at all.
Yeah. So these multiple personalities are in fact very distinct personalities. The movie is exploring the idea that what can the human brain do? What is it capable of? If you have one personality that's nearsighted and one personality that's not, for example, what does that mean about how much of your reality the brain is controlling, and what are the limits to that?
Yeah.
I think it takes it right up to the edge of absurd, and miraculously does not go all the way there by the end of the movie. And again, that's due largely to James McAvoy's performance, also due to restraint on M. Night's part.
As the movie unfolded, I'm kind of like, I'm not sure I like where this is going, or I don't know if he can pull it off. And he doesn't go all the way there. Again, he could have gone so far over the top that the audience is laughing. The audience was not laughing at the end of this movie for good reasons. Like I said, he really is able to really make you feel for these characters. And the characters, other than James McAvoy, I don't think are really that well fleshed out. It's not like you're really personally invested in these characters making out of it. It's the fact that he's able to sustain an environment and this very creepy atmosphere that you would feel for anybody who's kind of in this situation. And I think that, again, this is all resting on James McAvoy. The rest of the cast is fine. It was a little distracting for me to see the lemon drink lady from The Happening in such a key role. And I think that some other things for The Happening were brought over. M. Night kind of has a weird ear for how people talk. There's a little bit of that in this film where there's some lines of dialogue and some performances where I was like, that's not how human beings interact with each other.
I don't know. I actually, first of all, The Happening, the most amazing moment from The Happening, just if we can pause there for a minute, is when he talks to a ficus that actually is a plastic plant, and then he talks to himself going like, oh, ficus, I thought you were real. Say hello to your mother for me. That's The Happening.
Yes.
But Betty Buckley, who plays the psychiatrist in
Yes.
this film, I actually think delivered a great performance. To me, she was the thing that was anchoring the film emotionally because she cared so much about James McAvoy's character. The central personality is Kevin. And because she cared so much about Kevin, because she had so much empathy for what he was going for and so much respect for his various personalities, I think that it helped to settle us into what this movie was really exploring.
Yeah, there is a great scene with her and James McAvoy where she is meeting with him and she realizes that she's not talking to who she thinks she's talking to. And there's this kind of chess game between the two of them where he knows that she knows and she knows that he knows, and she's trying to see what personality is going to manifest itself. That's really great. And yes, that is a really strong part of the movie. There's some character choices that she makes at the end of this movie that I think are patently ridiculous. Again, kind of M. Night's worst qualities coming out. But yeah, again, I think though it all comes back to James McAvoy. And if he didn't work in this movie would not work in any way, shape, or form.
I think that the other thing that horror fans need to keep in mind is that this isn't a traditional horror movie, that you have to remember this is an M. Night movie, and if you're expecting certain tropes and certain payoffs, you're not gonna find them here. Sort of lands right where I live in terms of the idea of like the thing that blows my mind the most about life in some ways is the placebo effect. I don't know why we don't make more out of that. Why don't we make more out of that? Your mind just healed your body. That's crazy, people. What else can it do? And that's sort of the entire premise of this film. So it's really fun for me. I'm also a horror fan. I take it with a grain of salt. This is meant to be a hyperbolic, heightened exploration of these things. Great performances. I think it's a fun movie to watch now.
Okay.
There is a thing.
So there's always a thing. It's M. Night Shyamalan. There's always a thing. So I think first off, what I think we can say,
Yes.
and we're not going to spoil anything here. Don't worry. I think what we both can say comfortably though is don't go into this movie looking for a twist, in the sense that like The Sixth Sense had, where it completely changes everything about the movie. This movie doesn't have that. And I don't think you should look for that in the movie. I think you might enjoy the movie actually more knowing that going in, because you're not waiting for the other shoe to drop, so to speak, and for everything to be turned on its head. It doesn't have that. However, I loved what it did have. It has a thing that doesn't really change what came before it, but it does kind of recontextualize it, or at least it did for me. It completely recontextualized the movie in a really fun and really unexpected way. And I have to give M. Night credit. You know, people go into his movies thinking, oh, you know, he can never pull one over on me. I know that he's, you know, what he's doing. And he got me. And not only did he get me, but I loved what he did.
So we will be talking about The Thing that we are vaguely talking about here in another video in more detail, so you can look out for that. It'll go up on Sunday after the movie is open. Having said that, to me, I loved what he did with The Thing. There were some very emphatic responses to The Thing in the theater, which were really fun to hear. And I think we'll be hearing about that in a lot of different theaters for fans of his work. But I actually don't think the movie rests on that. I think
it doesn't. No, it doesn't. It's a really fun thing that comes at the end. And I will say though, don't go seeking it out, because I do think it's a really great moment. That if you spoil it for yourself or you have it spoiled, it is going to ruin some of the fun of seeing the movie. So I will say that. Don't go seeking it out. Don't think like, well, I'll read it and then it'll help me when I watch the movie. It is a fun little thing at the very end, a fun little surprise that I would not have had as much fun with the movie if I had known, and I had no idea.
I had no idea
what was going to happen.
And don't read comments like on reviews, because we're going to do the best we can to play whack-a-mole, but people will spoil stuff in comments. I don't know why.
It is a great moment though. It's a great moment, especially, you know, just to pay off everything that's come before. And again, hats off to M. Night for being able to pull that kind of surprise.
Yeah, and we'll be talking, like I said, a lot more about that in a different video. But for now, I would say this. Look, if you are a fan of this genre, and if you liked his earlier films, I think this is a film you'll enjoy. And I think it's certainly worth seeing for that one performance alone. I would recommend it.
I would recommend it. I think that it is a great performance. I think it's a pretty good film. And I think that it's a really fun
twist.
If you want to call it that, that's not a twist at the end. So it's a mixture of things. As a film, I would recommend it, if only to see James McAvoy's performance.
If you are a fan of M. Night's earlier work, if you
Yeah.
want to see if he can return to form, at least to some degree, and if you want to see one fantastic performance and watch James McAvoy just act his dandy Scottish ass off, this is a movie for you.
And if you're a fan of M. Night Shyamalan in particular as their director, I think you can have a lot of fun with this movie. So that's what we thought of Split. What did you think of Split? Again, please don't spoil the movie in the comments below. We will be on the lookout. Let us know below on Screen Junkies News. As Ross said, we will be addressing more about this movie at a later date this weekend. And if you want to see even more Screen Junkies News stuff, check it out right here. I'll say the top one's my favorite this week. Thanks for watching. We'll be back with more reviews.